Good evening and thank you for being with us. The Thunder Bay District Health Unit is reporting just one new case of COVID-19 today, bringing the number of active cases in the Thunder Bay District to its lowest level since February 13th. That one new case is here in the Thunder Bay area, and the exposure source is still pending. There have now been 2,919 COVID-19 cases reported since the pandemic began. With 15 previous cases having been resolved, the active case load has now fallen to 149. Meanwhile, the regional hospital has begun offering the vaccine to those with 5 specific health conditions: organ transplant recipients, stem cell transplant recipients, neurological diseases impacting lung function, blood cancer diagnosed in the last year, and kidney disease. The clinic is located in the LU Education Building. Adrienne Shippen is the hospital COVID-19 vaccination task force lead. She says they provide Pfizer vaccines to 250 to 500 people a day.
Outlined by the province, yes, and then how we navigate through phase 2 is directed by public health. So there's an algorithm provided to us by the province, and then our local health unit, Thunder Bay District Health Unit, determines which of our clinics will target which population. So we were directed to start to focus on individuals with the eligible high-risk health conditions.
Anyone with the aforementioned health conditions can schedule an appointment online for the hospital's vaccine clinic. Essential caregivers for those individuals are also eligible for a shot. While COVID-19 numbers here in the Thunder Bay area are on the way down, the opposite is happening in other parts of the province. Ontario recorded over 3,000 new cases again today, and leading medical officials in the hardest hit areas are calling on the province to impose a stay-at-home order. That situation's also prompted Toronto education officials to order their schools to close and revert to virtual learning. Colin DeMello has more.
The pressure to increase provincial restrictions seems to have made an impact. Today, Premier Doug Ford said Toronto, Peel, and Ottawa could see new restrictions this week.
We're going to be very clear tomorrow on what we're hearing from our Chief Medical Officer to secure areas. And there are 3 areas. Again, we're going to target the big employers in hot areas.
Local public health officials say the province-wide shutdown was not rigid enough and asked for a stay-at-home order, travel restrictions, and the closure of additional businesses. All of those measures are now under consideration. The Chief Medical Officer of Health says they have to act fast.
What more must we do to try and bring this surge as our ICU numbers climb over 500, which is worrisome enough? And especially if we can't curtail it to keep it down under 600 or even further, we're going to have to take more strident measures.
At the same time, there are growing calls to vaccinate essential workers during the pandemic's 3rd wave.
I mean, it just makes sense. Essential workers must be prioritized. That's the places where the spread is happening. It must be addressed. I mean, it's just what makes sense.
But today, the government revealed few changes to its vaccination strategy. Starting tomorrow, people aged 60 plus can sign up for a vaccine province-wide. People aged 50 plus can sign up in hotspot neighborhoods. And people with high-risk chronic health conditions can also sign up for a vaccine. Essential workers have been moved up by 2 weeks, but they'll only start in mid-May.
We have to go under the high priority essential manufacturers, be it the meat packers, the poultry, the manufacturing sector, large companies. You saw what happened in Amazon out in Brampton. We have to start focusing on those areas in the hot spots, and I know we're working on a plan as well.
While the province works on that plan, the priority, the Premier says, is to focus on those who face the greatest risks of catching and dying of COVID-19.
The border between Canada and the United States has remained closed for more than a year to non-essential travel due to the pandemic. And with border businesses struggling and families separated, there are growing calls to find a solution to reopen to cross-border travel. MP Marcus Pawlowski took part in a virtual round table this afternoon in International Falls, Minnesota, regarding the potential reopening of the border. Minnesota Congressman Pete Stauber and Congresswoman Michelle Fischbach organized that meeting, which also featured representatives from U.S. communities and businesses. During the discussion, Pawlowski spoke about the economic devastation the border closure has caused and also gave his opinion on what it will take for it to reopen.
I think our government is, in my estimation, being a little overly conservative in how fast we think we can vaccinate people. But I'm thinking, and this is my personal opinion, I'm thinking by June or July, we're going to have a considerable portion of our population vaccinated. That in my thinking, again, this is just me, that when Americans can show proof of vaccination and we have a good deal of our population and all the vulnerable ones vaccinated, that then I think we're probably going to be in a pretty good position.
Our general business is down over 90%. The gas station is closed. The duty-free store is closed. And like Bobby said, with the casino and the reservation, we need Canadian travel. We need it. We need the commerce back and forth.
The Canadian government says the border will remain closed until at least April 21st. In other news, the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office has sent 2 investigators to Nakina, where a local resident is reported to have died in a house fire. Volunteer fire crews and Greenstone OPP received a call about the blaze at around 1 o'clock yesterday morning. The house was completely destroyed, and an OPP spokesperson says a male occupant was unaccounted for after the fire. Family, friends, and neighbors say they are mourning the loss of Nakina resident J.P. Mercier. A GoFundMe campaign has been launched for the victim's spouse. Fire marshal's officials were on scene this afternoon, along with fire crews and the OPP, working to recover the body. There is no word yet on the cause of that fire. A Thunder Bay man is facing attempted murder charges following a standoff with the OPP in Conmee Township Friday evening. 42-year-old Michael Parenteau is also charged with aggravated assault, and mischief. Police and EMS were called to the Holland Road residence and found the victim of the assault, who was transported to hospital with serious injuries. The standoff lasted for over an hour, but then ended peacefully. Parenteau remains in custody and was scheduled to have a bail hearing today. Thunder Bay police are asking for the public's assistance after a disturbing video recently surfaced showing a vulnerable person being assaulted. The video is believed to have been recorded on Sunday. It shows a young man attacking the older individual while a second male records the assault. The victim is punched, kicked, and thrown to the ground. At the tail end of the video, the 2 suspects enter a silver vehicle. The video has been circulating on social media, which led to police involvement. Anyone with information about the person in this image or anything else that could assist in the investigation is being asked to contact Thunder Bay Police or Crime Stoppers. A Thunder Bay pet owner is speaking up after not being able to receive emergency care for her dog. Local veterinary clinics aren't accepting any new clients right now, apparently due to a lack of vets in the city. Catalina Gillies has that story.
The vet did, in fact, say no, we weren't clients, so he was not taking us on, and to wait it out. So about 20 minutes later, after all of this is happening, she's clearly in pain, in my opinion.
Ashley Hopkins said it was an incredibly long and scary night after her 13-year-old dog Mac suffered a seizure. She called numerous vet clinics, including the emergency line, yet she was told she couldn't receive help because she wasn't a client and that the clinics aren't taking anyone new because of the pandemic.
I wasn't asking to be a new client. I was asking for emergency care for my pet in that moment. When you go see a doctor and emerge, they don't follow you forever. They see you, they take care of the issue, and then from then on you follow your family doctor. And that should be exactly what it is in this case. I'm absolutely disgusted with the fact that that's our emergency care.
Hopkins has a vet in Dryden. However, she was worried her pet wouldn't survive the drive. Luckily, Mac made a full recovery. We contacted all the vet clinics in Thunder Bay requesting a TV interview without success. One of their websites suggests the pandemic has caused a dramatic rise in new pet owners over the past year. But the owner of the Crossroads Clinic says the pandemic is not the main reason. He says that there's a long-standing shortage of local veterinarians and that he's been trying to hire vets for the past 3 years without any luck.
People can't get a new puppy unless they have a vet, and you can't get a vet. So it's such a catch-22 because you want to give these dogs loving, good homes, but you cannot get a vet.
Catalina Gillies, TBT News.
The former mayors of Thunder Bay and Sudbury are worried about the future of the Northern Ontario School of Medicine after Laurentian University declared financial insolvency earlier this year. Former Mayor Ken Boshkoff and former Sudbury Mayor Jim Gordon were both in office when the medical school was created 20 years ago. NOSM operates on the campuses of Laurentian in Sudbury and at Lakehead University here, but the school's incoming funding, from tuition to donations, is all handled by Laurentian, which is more than $300 million in debt. NOSM's degrees are also issued through the universities. The former mayors want that to change by granting NOSM the ability to operate independently, or at the very least, that it has its money protected no matter what happens to Laurentian.
You're talking vast sums by any standard. So our issue is to make sure that the bank accounts for NOSM are stable and allowed to continue, which is more important.
NOSM officials have declined comment on the issue. The decision to delay Gull Bay First Nations 2020 election could be reviewed by a federal court judge. The First Nation was supposed to choose a new chief and council back in November, but the election was pushed back by 6 months on 2 separate occasions. Now, an Indigenous advocacy group from Alberta is involved on behalf of Gull Bay members who oppose an extra year of this council. Chief Wilfred King says everything they have done to this point is with COVID safety in mind, and he claims they followed federal regulations throughout. The advocacy group says, while the proper channels may have been followed, they don't believe Ottawa should have been able to make that ruling. They also believe any extension should have come with a semi-formal consultation of the band's 1,400 members. King says while they don't offer a large-scale consultation, he's heard that the majority want the election to take place when it's safe to do so.
The opposition that really wants to, get back in council seats and that sort of thing. So those are the ones that are pushing for the election. My gauge of the community is that people were okay with the postponement. Their concern, much was our concern, was the safety of the members.
Consultation can take place in many ways. It can be done through Zoom, through technology. There is a Indigenous electoral company called One Feather who has been conducting band elections throughout the pandemic.
Chief King claims that the judicial review application was a complete surprise to the First Nation, and they hope it can get resolved out of the courtroom, although he is prepared if that's where it ends up. Lawyers from the Band Members Alliance hope that if the dispute does go to federal court, it can be expedited to take place within the next 2 months. The Fort William Rotary House Lottery has officially sold out. In just 5 weeks, all 16,000 tickets were purchased, mainly by Thunder Bay residents. The custom-built 5-bedroom home on Bishop Court is valued at over $640,000. Money raised will go to 22 charities, including the Boys and Girls Club, the Art Gallery, and Shelter House. Rotary House Lottery Committee Chair Dave Knutson is amazed by the result. He says a number of factors played into the rapid ticket sales, including those who are looking for something to dream about during the pandemic.
If not hope, maybe anticipation of something. So looking at something to look forward to, the draws, or there will be a big winner. I ran into last year's winner just this past week, and they were talking about how it had been kind of a life-changing event for them. And I think there's that hopefulness. And the other thing is that the money, even if you don't win, the money is going to the charities in the community.
The only time that tickets sold out faster was back in 2004 when there were a whole lot fewer tickets up for grabs. That draw will take place on Thanksgiving weekend. And Thunder Bay residents were treated to a rare April lightning storm last night, prompting many people to pull out their cameras and cell phones to capture the spectacular weather event. The good folks at tvnewswatch.com invited their readers to submit photos of the lightning strikes. Nearly 100 images were sent in, and most of them are now posted on the website. The light show started at around 9 o'clock last night and continued to about 10:30, with numerous lightning strikes piercing the sky every minute. Now, so far, there have been no reports of property damage or injuries from the storm, but there sure were a lot of great images captured by local amateur and professional photographers alike. One of the best storms we've had in a couple of years here.
It's like a Pink Floyd concert.
Yeah, well,